What happens when you take factorial level planning and drop it into the middle of a live player-driven war? You get one of the most ambitious and efficient facilities Foxhole has ever seen. Today we're diving into the story of the War Factory, a record-breaking facility built through intense planning, coordination, and the tireless work of multiple regiments. At the start of War 125, Tor from Knight reached out to me and said they were planning something huge this war. What I didn't know at the time was that their goal was to build the largest and most efficient facility Foxhole had ever seen. And they did exactly that. 10 days before the war began, Knight started gathering a rough headcount to see how many members would be active for War 125, determining if they had the labor power for such a massive undertaking. Jump ahead to 5 days before the war, Knight met with the leadership from the Colonial Regiment Joe to brainstorm potential large-scale projects and assess whether conditions would be right to pull one off. By the time day 1 of the war arrived, everything was planned out. All that remained was to see the resource layout of the map, a detail the devs only release an hour or two before a war begins. Both regiments had to be ready to claim the ideal location the moment the war started. They quickly identified Westgate as the perfect spot, with an excellent resource layout and terrain. What started as a wide, open field full of crops and trees would soon transform into the largest facility Foxhole players had ever seen. And it wouldn't stop there. The project would eventually expand to utilize the entire region. It's rare in Foxhole to see a whole region unite around a single vision, but for this war, something special happened. Nearly every group in Westgate came together to bring this ambitious project to life. Westgate had everything this project needed: 2 coal fields, 3 oil fields, 3 salvage fields, 1 sulfur mine, and 3 salvage mines, all of which were fully utilized. As shown in this makeshift layout, every resource node had a clear purpose, and nothing went to waste. While the regiments Knight and Joe were the original driving force behind this project, other colonial regiments like TL, Slay, and several others soon joined in to support the region and help ensure everything ran smoothly. By the end of the war, the total resource usage for the entire project was staggering. The facility consumed 61.7 million salvage, 83 million cans of oil, 33 million coal, 21 million buckets of water, 3.5 million sulfur, and 770,000 components. To keep the facility and its defenses operational, 5.6 million maintenance supplies and 42 million salvage were used. Powering the facility required 28 million cans of oil as well, which kept the power lines active around the clock. An extensive train network was set up across the region to transport these massive quantities of resources. This facility worker had this to say about using the train. "One day I ended up doing 3 train loads of coke from the southern coalfields, 300,000 total, and after that I ended up doing 2 train loads of components, about 100,000. I also did 10 to 15 runs of processed construction materials. And to finish off the day, I did about 6 train runs from Holdfast up north to bring down maintenance supplies for our bunker defenses." End quote. Several dozen trains ran constantly, day and night, delivering materials to the main facility and ensuring everything was in place to begin production as soon as the tech was unlocked. Now let's talk about the facility itself, where all the magic happened. Originally, Tierlock, one of Knight's leaders, told me the plan was to build 20 vehicle pads for the tank production, but once they saw just how much space they had to work with, they decided to push the limits and increase that number to 48. If my information is correct, this is the most vehicle pads ever built in a single Foxhole facility at any point in the game's history. The regiment and facility leaders were constantly in communication, working around the clock to ensure the facility stayed operational. It required hourly updates and tight coordination, because if even one part of this massive operation failed, the entire system could collapse. For 15 days, the facility was carefully maintained and defended, while the team waited for the Railstorm cannon to be researched. And finally, when day 16 arrived, the first phase of production began. In total, the group would go on to produce 10 Railstorm cannons. Each cannon took about 72 hours to build once placed on the pad. While they didn't set any records for cannon output, that wasn't their main goal. This group had their sights set on something even bigger: battle tanks and super heavy tanks, which would become available just 4 days later, on day 20 of the war. When day 20 finally arrived, everything the team had planned and worked for was finally here. It felt like a Christmas tree lighting up for the first time, as all 48 pads powered on and began producing battle tanks. As production kicked off, many colonials dropped what they were doing just to witness the facility in action.
It's beautiful, guys.
This I can say is the vision of the devs.
So people,
vision.
how
This
you
is
liking the
what
pads?
Foxhole was meant to be.
The first batch off the line included 33 battle tanks, 4 battle tank destroyers, 4 SPGs, and 4 super heavy tanks. At this point, you might be wondering, what was this small facility regiment planning to do with all of these vehicles? While most facility groups sell their tanks in exchange for resources, Knight had made the decision early on that everything would be given away for free. If a vehicle was complete, anyone could simply show up and drive it off the lot. Knight even took it a step further, supplying each vehicle with ammo and fuel so players could head straight to the front lines. Over 12,000 tank shells had been produced in advance. Everything was going according to plan. The facility was a massive success until the first batch rolled off the line. Just as the vehicles were being completed, a massive Tier 5 winter storm slammed into Westgate. This is what one facility worker had to say about the snowstorm. The first time the storm hit, we were the skeleton crew of the group. The few of us had to scramble to secure the critical infrastructure, like the power to the battle tank pads and the pipes for the coal facilities. Endless hours were spent squinting at pipes saying, "Is this one insulated yet?" I think we had to insulate over 500 pipes over the day to keep the facility running. End quote. And here's what another player had to say. When I went to farm the coal field, everything was frozen, and I went to flamethrower the harvester to unfreeze it, and then it got disabled. Then I had to go find B-mats to repair the harvester, but by the time I got B-mats, the harvester was frozen again. It was a nightmare to deal with. End quote. Players scrambled to keep production going, using flamethrowers to defrost vehicles and pipes. Even the tanks still on the pads had to be defrosted just to move them out of the way. After a while, the storm settled down. With members sprinting into action as they did, production didn't halt for even a second, and overall had no effect on the facility. Though the team responded quickly and kept production moving, another Tier 5 storm hit later the same day. This one even more intense. Pipes froze over again for even longer this time, and all vehicles across the region were frozen solid. Much of Westgate came to a standstill, but somehow, the vehicle pads never stopped. Tanks continued to roll out, even as the rest of the region was paralyzed. By the end of the following day, the storm had finally passed. The supply chain of resources, which had been paused during the blizzard, had to quickly catch up in preparation for the next batch of vehicles. It's a running joke in the Foxhole community that the devs control the weather system, and this situation might have added fuel to that fire. But the weather wasn't the only challenge this group had to face. From the start of the war, the facility was under constant pressure from Warden partisans. They frequently attempted to sneak in during off hours, hoping to inflict damage while most players were offline. But as you've seen throughout this video, this was no ordinary facility group. They came prepared. The entire region was blanketed with watchtowers, ensuring that no partisan could enter undetected. The group even had dedicated players from the regiment sleigh on patrol, ready to hunt down any intruders, especially during vulnerable hours when fewer members were online. Infantry and tank mines were placed along all regional borders to prevent large warden groups from pushing in and sabotaging the base. Throughout the entire war, the facility only suffered one casualty. A player from Halberd named Comrades Heavy managed to sneak through and destroy a single battle tank destroyer. All other partisans that came in were dealt with swiftly. This is what one Warden partisan player had to say about this facility. So this explains why every time I started partisaning within Westgate, I got clapped so hard my ancestors felt it. As always though, it's always a genuine joy to witness Knight doing crazy facility work. I may hate running a facility, but driving by one as efficient and effective as one of yours makes me miss working in manufacturing. Tierlock and Knight, I salute you once more." End quote. Despite the snowstorms and constant partisan threats, the facility kept nearly all of its pads running at full capacity, steadily pumping out tanks for the front lines until the very end of the war. Even after the developers announced that the war would be ending early, the group didn't slow down. They ramped up production for the final 2 batches. After all was said and done, records were broken, as the group had made 174 battle tanks, 45 battle tank destroyers, 41 SPGs, 13 super heavy tanks, and 10 railstorm cannons. For reference, for those of you that don't know, a battle tank takes 18 hours to make, while battle tank destroyers and SPGs take 24 hours to make. A super heavy tank takes 48 hours to make, and finally railstorm cannons take 72 hours to make. According to Tierlock, if the group had focused solely on battle tanks, the cheapest and fastest to produce, they could have built up to 445 in total. In the end, the facility only ran for 8 full days of production, and was sadly cut short by the devs ending the war early. If it had continued any longer, the final numbers might have been a record no regiment could ever break. Even though the war was cut short, the tanks produced at this facility still made a significant impact, especially in the northwest in the Nevish Line, Stone Cradle, the Moors, and Callum's Cape. If you had asked any tankers on those fronts where they got their vehicle, 9 9 out of 10 would have said Knight's facility. In my opinion, this massive production effort was one of the key reasons the Colonials were able to capture all of Nevish Line and push deep into Callum's Cape and Stone Cradle. Many Colonial players reported seeing waves of battle tanks and SPGs supporting their assaults. These vehicles truly helped turn the tide in those battles. Here's what one tank crew had to say: killed lots of infantry defending Buckler Sound, pushed them all the way to the Reach at some point. End quote. As mentioned earlier, Knight wasn't the only regiment involved in this massive project. Knight primarily managed the main facility, vehicle pads, a coal field, and the oil fields. The Colonial Regiment Joe focused on the 2 southern salvage fields and handled the production of the process construction materials, one of the main resources for building the tanks. The Regiment TL offered support across the entire region, stepping in wherever they were needed most. The Regiment Slay took charge of hunting down partisans and helped with other critical tasks like moving materials around. And last, a small group that managed the southern coalfield contributed whenever they could to support the operation. Beyond these regiments, countless other Colonial players pitched in, running trains, harvesting resources, and doing whatever was needed to keep the operation running smoothly. It was a true faction-wide effort to make the facility as efficient and effective as possible. Here's what some players had to say at the end of the war about this facility. Not gonna lie, when I first saw that mega facility being built in Westgate, I thought y'all were trolling because of so many large pads. Didn't think you'd actually be able to produce that much. Insane." End quote. As a facility player, this place brought a tear to my eye. I was break warring, but I logged in just to walk around it. Doomer was nice enough to show me around a bit, and it was magnificent. Makes me proud to be a Colonial. We know what Knight can do, and we will always support them in any endeavor. End quote. The team we had between Knight, Joe, TL, and everyone else was just insane. Somehow we made the largest facility and made it feel as if it was a small facility with efficiency. End quote. The facility became so well known during the war that members were regularly giving tours, transporting players around in buses to showcase the operation and answer any questions they had. This was truly one of the greatest facilities and projects in Foxhole history, and it won't be forgotten. Hats off to everyone involved. If I missed anyone, it was absolutely unintentional, but I hope you're proud of what you helped accomplish. And for those of you that might not know, Knight isn't new to large facility projects. They're known for pushing the limits of what facilities can do. They focus less on fighting and more on supporting their faction through logistics and production. Originally, Knight began as a small Colonial regiment on the Baker Shard during the Foxhole 1.0 war, but after that first war they switched to the Warden site to secure better resource fields, and eventually they would become a neutral regiment that switches back and forth whenever they want. Over time, they became a top-tier facility group, setting production records like producing over 100 free battle tanks in one war, and they earned respect across both factions, especially through their massive supply ships and their bluefin operations. Knight always excels by working smart, optimizing resources and transportation with clever tricks, allowing them often to outperform larger groups. Though they are a small regiment, Knight's strength lies in its precise planning and adaptability. They plan ahead and design unique facility layouts tailored to each war's conditions, and they shift plans quickly when needed. They see themselves as more of a close-knit community than a regiment. Their main values are teamwork, learning, and having fun. Most of their members are highly skilled logistics and facility players who support one another like a well-oiled machine. Here's what one player had to say about being in Knight. "Truly, I'm proud of our group of guys, all those that helped, but especially Tor. He really is such a cool, funny, down-to-earth dude. Happy and proud to call him my friend. So happy I found and joined the regiment. Shout out to my guy Doom as well, also a really good friend. Both him and Tor have helped me keep a good headspace." End quote. And last, here's what one player had to say about Knight that I believe sums them up perfectly. "Experts in facilities is an understatement. Always been very impressed by Knight's builds." End quote. Knight doesn't just build facilities, they build the foundation for victory. If you're interested in facility gameplay and want to join this powerhouse regiment, I'll leave a link to their Discord in the description below. The leaders Tor and Tierlock have even mentioned to me that even if you are just a facility player that wants to learn more or has questions, they are happy to chat with anyone anytime. Big shout out to all regiments and players who helped with the War Factory, and especially Joe, the other Colonial regiment. They are a fantastic group with equally skilled facility leads who deserve more recognition. Please make sure to go check them out as well. I will leave a link to their Discord below. And finally, a shout out to Tor and Tierlock for helping me with this video. They will be making their own facility videos as well that will go more in depth than my video. I will make sure to leave a link to those videos down below. If you have any cool projects that you're working on in Foxhole and would like them to be highlighted, make sure to send me a DM on Discord and maybe we can make a video about it together. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support. Make sure to subscribe for more Foxhole content. I'll see you out on the battlefield. Cheers.